I am so excited to introduce you to my beautiful guest today. I have been following Kristina's journey for such a long time, and I'm sure you have as well. So thank you so much for joining me today, Kristina. It's such a joy to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
I feel like I have been on like the sidelines of seeing all the ins and outs, have been a customer of kikki.K for many, many years, and I just love the thought and energy and love that you brought to that brand. And so I'd love to dive into talking a little bit about your experience and what's happened with kikki.K and everything like that.
Mhm.
But before we even go there, I'd love to just start with, what does living a dream life mean to you?
Living your dream life is really to live a life that is true to you. So everything that I do is what I've chosen to do and love to do. And to me, that means being flexible because I've got two kids, teenagers, and I want to do as much as I can with them, travel the world and do all the adventures. I actually just surprised my daughter with Taylor Swift tickets last night, which she was so excited about. We're going to be in Europe, so we'll see her in London. But just really doing all the things that are important. So for me, in terms of, so obviously being, doing fun things with my family, but also for me, I love sharing. That's one of my highest values. So I am now out doing lots of keynotes and a lot of speaking and combining that with my love of travel and also my love for health and wellness and combining all that. So, for example, this week I will be I'm going to two different cities to talk, and then I will finish on the Gold Coast, and I will have a night on my own, and I will get up early. I will meditate. I will bring my journals, of course, and then I will be out for a walk and go for a nice coffee. Really simple things, but it's things that I absolutely love. So combining those things, I think, is for me my true dream life. I also do what I love work-wise. So I now run a coaching course or coaching program, I should say. And I also run a virtual book club because I love personal growth books, and not everyone loves that, but I love combining my love of that and then having that, sharing that passion. And then I have also started a new stationery brand called Dream Life, which is all about all tools and journals and things to help everyone out there to live their dream life. So that for me, like combining the fun and the passions and the purpose and really live a life that is true to you, that's what dream life to me is all about.
I love that. And I feel like it's one of those things that you can often get off track with. Like I remember like a few years into my business, I was building the business, spending
Yeah.
so much time working on the business. And I had this epiphany of like, I am so similar to you, Christine. Like, I love travel. It's always been one of my highest values. I've traveled a lot. And I
Yeah.
went like, because I said to myself, like, when I started my business, you're not going to be able to travel. All your money's going to have to go back into investing in the business. And I went a few years without traveling and realized how much it actually impacted me by not traveling. And then COVID happened. And then obviously then couldn't travel. So it's one of those things that I'm really getting back to is like actually in, how do you call it? Integrating into the life that you have, making sure that
Yeah.
you're really leaning into those passions and what's really important to you. So I love that.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know, do you find like with the conversations that you have with people and talking about dreaming bigger, do you find that people really struggle with actually thinking bigger?
Sometimes, yes. I don't think it's actually the trouble dreaming isn't really that hard for people because I think we all have, like, if we allow ourselves to dream, I think everyone have dreams within them. It's just really how to get them out on paper that's really important, not just have them in your head or in your mind. But the so that's probably not the biggest problem. The biggest challenge that I see is the self-doubt and the self-belief and feeling that, almost like, who am I to create a life that I love? And that's why I'm so passionate about helping people, because life is short. Even if we do get to live a long life, I think we should all do. And it does not mean a big global business or something that I'll be doing or you be doing. It is whatever is true to each person, and that's different for everyone. And I've got lots of people in my coaching program, and I have not seen one person yet that have had a dream that I had no idea how to make that happen. And so when people come in, they're like, oh, they almost feel embarrassed saying it because for them it's really, really big. And it's big because, and regardless of the size of the dream, it's not about the size. It's about, have they not done it before? It's hard to make it happen. Like with everything, like if you've never started a business before, that's hard. If you're starting a new role that you've never done before, that's hard. If you move to another country, that's hard. But that's so exciting to be able to do all these amazing things. So, and having the support from someone who believes in you. And I think, you know, if that's a program, or if it's like a mentor or a coach, or someone who is there on your side to cheer you on, because when we do new things, it's hard, and it requires a bit of I guess mental toughness, and not giving up. But I think the belief is the one that I see with people struggling the most. Most of us, you know what we want in terms of what we want to have and what we want to do and what we want to become. It's just not really, do we believe that that is possible for us? And I truly believe it is for everyone. It requires, as you know, hard work and you know, being consistent and showing up. But once you do that and you start getting momentum, then you start thinking, oh, if I can do that, maybe I can push a little further, and maybe I can then go to the next one and next one. And once you get momentum, it's just amazing. And I was actually interviewing someone last week from my podcast who is in my program, because I noticed her momentum the last 12 months has really got to another level. And it's incredible when you just have a little bit of support, and sometimes we have to redo the same thing. You were saying before that, you know, you the first few years in a small business does not happen overnight. I started a new business again, and I've been in business for, I don't know, 25 years. So, you know, a lot of people think it should be easy for me, but it's never easy to start a new business, to get out there. So we just need persistence and patience and being consistent in everything that we do.
And I think like what I just took from what you said is almost like permission to go after it. Like I love that you like encourage people to get it out of their head and write it down and actually make it real. Like this can be like almost like grab the dream out of your head and put it onto paper and make it real, so that you can actually put a plan together and start taking that action to get towards momentum. But I think a lot of people are almost like you said, like they're almost like don't even want to say it out loud, because it's like then
Be careful. Yeah. I always say be careful what you share, because when people start sharing, I'm always thinking, who do I know who can help with that? And that's exactly what one of the ladies in my coaching program did. And because one of her thing was to do more public speaking. So I went to Antarctica a few weeks ago, and I never miss my coaching, but there was no internet where I was in Antarctica. So I had to miss one coaching session, and or a book club session. So I asked her if she would actually run that for me, and she's like, "Oh," I said, "Well, you shared." And it's amazing. And I had so many experiences seeing people sharing, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not sure." And then when they get support, they're like, "Oh, that was easy." That's why, you know, it's not always easy, of course, depending on what the size is, and also if we know someone who's done it before. But it's rare that I see something that is so difficult that it requires, like, it requires effort for sure, but it's everything that we want. Often, you know, their dreams are a really amazing career, or a really amazing business, or, you know, traveling and you know, be healthy and fit. And so many people before us have done that. So sometimes we just need a bit of a role model or some inspiration, and just that belief that if she or he can do it, so can I.
Yeah, 100%. And just having someone going, yeah, that's possible. Like that's absolutely possible. It's almost like, oh, okay, geez, Louise, now I have to go.
I know. And you know, sometimes it's I remember this is like a dream. Being from Sweden, I always wanted to kind of have a Scandinavian life on this side of the world. And there was a chair that I wanted that I couldn't afford many, many years ago. And I just kept putting it on the vision board. It was such a beautiful chair. And then I won an award, and I thought in my head, if I ever win that, and I didn't believe I was going to win it that year, but I thought eventually maybe I can if I keep working towards it. I won that year, and if I did, I was going to buy that chair. And it's interesting. Once I won it, I was like the wishing and working towards it, and you know, working out how to do it. is as enjoyable as it is to actually achieve it. That's why we need to have lots of dreams, because once you ticked one off, it's almost like, oh, was that all? Like, you just always have to have something. And that's why I always encourage people to have 3 dreams, depending on the size of it. 1 is perfectly fine if it's a big one, but 3 is manageable depending on the size. And it's so inspiring, because when you tick one off, it's like, oh, what else can I do, and what's my next thing? And I've got so many dreams. I know that I have more dreams that I can ever achieve in my lifetime, but I love the thought of that, because sometimes even like Antarctica, I had that like in 10 or 20 years, and it kind of just happened. And that's why it's so important to know what you want, even if you don't believe that will happen now, or don't want it to believe, like, don't even want it to happen. Like, I didn't really want to go to Antarctica for at least another 10 years, because I have so many other cities and countries and continents that I wanted to see, and it just kind of happened. And that's why it's so important to always work on what do you really want to do in your lifetime, because when the opportunity comes up, it's so much easier than to make a decision. Should I do it or should I not do it?
And I believe that there's so much power in declaring it, like saying it out loud, writing it down, because I think if it's just like almost like a pipe dream in your mind, like you almost like hold it back from being brought to you. And I just love that
Absolutely.
you wrote it down. I have that happen with my clients as well, where I'll get them to think like that 5-year plan for their business. And then we work together, and then like they've smashed out their goals much quicker because they've actually written them down and they've
Yeah.
gone after it. And I think sometimes you don't realize the impact of that, and declaring it out loud, saying it to someone also gets their brain working of how they can further support you and help you. And yeah,
Absolutely.
I feel like I'd love to explore this. So obviously having the representation of what's possible within the world with your life experience, right? Like, you've moved countries, you've built amazing businesses, and you've achieved a lot within your lifetime and where you are now. And so you've had like representations, and I'm sure there's been so many conversations with different levels of successful people in your life. So it's almost like your brain has all these reference points of like all these things that are possible. And so then when you come into contact with people in living everyday lives, do you find that like just by you going, well, actually, I know someone who's done that, or by having this representation, it's made it easier for you to feel like it's possible to go after it, compared to people who maybe don't have that in their circle of friends or in their circle of influence?
Yeah, 100%. But for anyone listening, that's kind of a not an good enough excuse, actually, because in today's world, more than any, compared to when I started my first business, compared to the second business, in today's world, you don't actually have to know them. Like before internet, I know there's a lot of people kind of imagine life before internet, but there was a time before internet. And then you had to read books that, might have been published years ago, versus today you can listen to podcasts, you can YouTube, and almost everything is free. And that's why I'm so passionate about reading books, because everything that I want to learn, I learn from books, because someone has put their whole life experience or their passion or their research, whatever that is, into one book. And you can finish that in a few hours or a few days or a few weeks, depending on how quickly you want to get that information. And sometimes, obviously, it takes much longer to implement that. But you can actually learn so much from other people, and also be around other people. So in today's world, you don't have to. So, for example, if someone lives, in rural Australia, or in a country where they don't have like-minded people, or cities or whatever, you can now join online groups, Facebook groups. You can be part of so many different things. Even following people on Instagram that are inspiring from across the world can really help you. So 100% so important to be around like-minded people, but you can do that in a different way compared to actually being like a network, or physically being there. So in my coaching program, I've got people from all over the world, and it's amazing how we are all from different cultures, and there's different ages as well, and different experiences. Some people have their own business and some people don't, and it doesn't matter, because they all have one thing in common: they all want to create their dream life. And it's incredibly inspiring for other people to say, well, she was, when she joined, she had doubts on this, but now look at her. And because they share often, I'm struggling with this, or I'm doing this, they all inspire each other. So whoever is listening, and whatever you're interested in, networking, try to find like-minded people, because that makes a massive difference. And especially if you have negative people around you. And those negative people are often the people you love the most, like the parents or maybe even partner or friends. And, they are just putting that on you because that's what they believe in and that's their self-doubt. So that's why it's so important. That's why I'm like, as soon as someone comes in, I'm like, it's absolutely possible. Let's make a plan. Let's make it happen. And so, yeah, super important. And I certainly have that. But you have to remember that I also started, I'm just a little bit ahead and a little bit older than most of your listeners probably. So I was one of those people who had no idea. I never started a business before I started kikki.K. I didn't know any people in Australia. I didn't know anything about like anything with business, no network, no money. So people often look at what I have achieved and thinking she must have had a special source, but I didn't. And that's kind of hard sometimes because you only, I've certainly seen some of our failures recently, but before that, you probably only saw success because that's the only thing that was published. But we all fail and we all make mistakes, and that is when we make the growth, and that's where we make all our amazing realizations on where we want to be and not want to be, or grow and evolve to the next best version. So yeah, it's easy to look at people, you look at Oprah or you look at Ariana Huffington, all these amazing global women, but they also just started somewhere. Some more fortunate than others, but if you look at Oprah, certainly not. So it's important to remember that. And I think there's a good little side thing here just to touch on quickly. Do not worry about what other people can or can't do. Worry about what you can or can't do. If you put all that energy into you, then it doesn't matter what other people do. And I truly believe in today's world, you can create whatever you want, even if it's done a million times before, because you are unique compared to anyone. There's no one like you out there. So you can put your spin on it and create whatever is important and valuable for you. So if you look at everyone else, then you waste so much time. Focus on you and focusing on making it happen and stay consistent.
Yes, 100%, 100% agree with everything you just said, that consistency piece right at the end, but also just staying strong to your own vision and not let any of that noise just come in. Like that's where we almost get so confused with what our next path or next step should be, is because we're either stuck in comparison or we're just too busy looking at what everyone else is doing instead of actually just coming back to what's really important. So I love that you shared that. So let's explore this more with regards to kikki.K. So I'd love to know, like looking back, what would you have attributed your success of kikki.K to?
Number one, dreaming, without doubt, because there's no way I would have started kikki.K if I didn't dream. So and that's why I'm so passionate about helping people live their dream life, whatever that is. Doesn't mean a business, but for me, that I came to Australia as a 22-year-old, and I was here. I met my partner Paul in a ski resort in Austria. That's why I came to Australia. And I was really lost, and I was whinging and complaining a lot. And I was asking to anyone who will listen, what am I going to do with my life? And one morning at 3 a.m., I woke up my partner Paul, I think for the 5th time. And he was like over it. And he's like, why don't we write down what is important to you? And this is my first dreams on paper. And one of them was that I wanted to have my own business. And if I didn't dream, because I didn't know what that was, and you can only imagine like moving to the other side of the world in a second language and no contacts, no money, no knowledge. Like it's really hard to set goals based on that. So dreaming is really important, because it doesn't really matter if you can or can't do it, because dreaming is the first step. So I wanted to have my own business. And then out of that, kikki.K was born. A bit of a long story, but the other part of us really making it in terms of a globally loved brand, but also a global business. We were in 6 countries, in over 120 stores, and obviously online everywhere. And it was to really set a clear vision. And I think that's more important today than it was back then, because it's so easy to get sidetracked. It's so easy to get involved with so many different things. And we were certainly guilty of that. But we had a very clear vision. So when we needed money to grow, when we needed new suppliers that didn't really want to take us on because we were too small, we always looked at the vision. And it also helped us overcome those challenges. So we had some major challenges, obviously, at the end of my journey with kikki.K. But before that, we had plenty. And I think all businesses do in different ways and depending on the size, but the bigger you get, the bigger they feel. And we had plenty and plenty of those. And having a clear vision kept me thinking that, we'll get through that. The other thing is to don't say no, say how, or don't take no for an answer. So I don't know what the failure rate for a small business is within the first 5 years, but it's high.
Really hard.
And obviously you need to have a good business, but we did, but it was still so close so many times to not making it. And I think obviously we had a great product and we worked on our brand. That's a given. But it still didn't mean that we would have made it. And the reason why we made it, in my view, is that we just never gave up. So we never took no for an answer. We got so many no's and we just kept, thinking, how can we do it differently? So don't say no was big letters on our wall in our office. And it was absolutely, absolutely vital. So I think those three things, definitely dreaming, having a clear vision, and don't say no, say how. And then obviously much more things like having a great team and having great products and all those kind of things comes without saying almost. But the three things that I think made us unique were those three.
I love that. Do you feel like obviously you would have had to have built that resilience to be able to keep overcoming those no's, because like building a brand to that level, like obviously there would have been so many no's and so many opportunities that didn't pan out. How did you keep yourself strong with that resilience in order to keep going?
I think that's why I kind of really handle I'm no longer part of kikki.K and the 2 years that kind of unfolded over COVID. I think that's why I was able to kind of stand up pretty quickly. It didn't mean that was easy, but I had, from early days when I started, I was really interested in personal growth and really interested in working on my own mindset. And I never had a burnout. And a lot of people do when you start your own business. And it's I can see why, because first we're really excited, and then we work and work and work, and then we might have a challenge coming our way, and then you have to work even harder or longer, and then you kind of burn out. And then when we burn out, it takes so much time and effort to come back to even to kind of the base level. So I never really got to that. I was definitely close, but I never got to it because self-care, exercise, health, and wellness is very much an underlying foundation in my life and in my business as well. And you would have seen a lot of that in our products, because it was so important to me to kind of keep that level in the good times, but also in the bad times. So I think for me, that was definitely looking after myself, getting good sleep, eating really well, meditation, reading, learning. I really still feel like I am a beginner in everything. I go in with that attitude. I never feel like I'm better than anyone else. I'm always open for new ideas, and younger people, older people, it does not matter. And I think that's even more true now, because like my son Axel, he has like a brand called AXA Golf. He sells golf shirts. He's only 16 and he started it a couple of years ago. And it's amazing what I learned from him. And obviously he's quicker with technology than I am, and spend so much more time on that side. But so you can learn from anyone. And I think the resilience that I got by having that attitude and really looking after myself, and that was something that we were really talked a lot about within the business as well, to try to obviously we had people not following that, but also got burnt out. But there's different things, and I think the burnout, it's often how we cope with stress within our heads versus sometimes how much we have to do. Because if we look after ourselves with walking and meditation and speaking out loud when it gets too much and taking some time off when needed, I think that really, really helped me. And I can go into specific things if you want to, but that's kind of the foundation of me kind of coping with all the ups and downs, and also being really grateful for everything that I was able to do, and the people that I got to meet, and the life that I got to live and still am. And you know, even in the hardest of time, gratitude is a big part. And you would have seen that I've created lots and lots of gratitude journal over the years, and still do in the Dream Life store. And it's so important, because even in the hardest of days and the hardest of times, there are always someone worse off. And if you don't need to think about that, but you just think about all the things that you have. So in COVID, for me, even if I lost my business, I had, you know, I still had my family, I still had my health, I still had all the experience and the knowledge and the attitude towards life and business. And I knew that if I could do it once, I can do it twice. And that was really important in the hardest of times. Does not mean, though, that it wasn't hard, and it doesn't mean that I wasn't sad and angry and frustration and all those things. And in the end, when you lose a business, or if you lose someone you love, or, you know, a breakup of a relationship, it's, at the end, it comes down to grief, and we all deal with that differently, and how long that takes is different for each person and different for each situation, of course. But I there comes a stage where you just feel like, you know, enough is enough, because otherwise I waste my life thinking about this. And that length is different for everyone. But I think I was able to get up pretty quickly, and I made a decision, actually, when we lost the business the second time around, that I'm not going to go down with the business, because it would have been, I think, in some ways, an easier option to actually go depressed and disappear for a couple of years. But I was like, nah, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to start again, and I know what I want to do, and I already had written my book, and I had my podcast, and I already had my program on the side anyway. And I thought, I'm just going to build that, because that's really what I'm more passionate about my new business, Dream Life, than I am about my previous business. And I love my previous business, and that's the beauty. And I'm sharing that because if anyone listening are going through a bit of a challenging time, you can actually get to a point where it's even better. But it's never easy and, well, I would say almost impossible to think about that in the middle of it. But there are always silver linings when you go through it.
Yeah, so good. So there's so many things I want to touch on there. Like, I feel like as the person in the business, there's two things I want to say. So one, that I feel like you truly embodied the vision. So I feel like that was like setting those clear boundaries, practicing the gratitude, like practicing what you preach in
Yeah.
every form. And I feel like that super showed through even just the experience that you created within the stores and the
Yeah.
workshops and everything that you ran. Like, I was talking to someone last week, and they were saying, I was chatting to you today, and she was like, oh my goodness, those workshops were everything. They were so amazing. And I'm like, it's so beautiful to see that impact even like now, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like you've truly embodied what you were preaching, which sounds
Yeah.
perfect as a leader. And then I feel like there's that element there around how you chose your experience with it. An
Yeah.
element of choice that went with it, where you're like, actually, what am I choosing here? I could have this option, or I could have this option. And you're like, I'm going to choose what feels right for me. So, and I'm sure, like, I absolutely agree with you. Like, it's not hard, it's choosing your hard, but you're also getting to choose throughout that. So it sounds like you also built a separate identity compared to kikki.K. So like, you had your own individual, like you had your book, your podcast, and you had those other things happening for you. Would you say, like, through your journey of kikki.K, like, did you see the business as a separate thing, or did you see it as it was you? Like, how did you view yourself within the business, or separate to the business?
Yeah, it was sometimes a bit of a challenge, actually, because as I was evolving myself as a person, and we all do that in different ways, but because the brand was so much me, there was a bit of a resistance from team sometimes, and the way that I saw things. And but I felt like it was so important, so we kind of changed our purpose to really embody that in the middle of our journey. So there was like really 4 words that we worked around, which was dreaming, because that's really how the whole business started. And then my passion for dreaming is really big, but you need to take action. So that was doing. So we had dream and do, and then we had share, because I feel like you need to share everything you learn, or we learned, and we had so much to share to people who came into our store, not just to, you know, sell them products, but really work out, you know, why did I come in? And a lot of people actually came in because they were going through a challenging time. Journaling is a big part of people overcoming a challenge. This could be depression, or we just had a partnership with BCNA, Breast Cancer Network Australia, and I the reason for that came about is because we used to have so many people coming in that got diagnosed with cancer, and the first thing that I wanted was like getting their thoughts onto paper. And so when people came in, it wasn't just about selling them a journal. It was really about talking to them and understanding where they were coming from. So I felt like we were so much more than a stationery brand. And in terms of my identity, it was, and the last word was enjoy, because I'd also believe that we should enjoy life every day. We should, obviously work hard and do all the things, but also enjoy life. And I wanted that in our business as well. Like, that's what I want to do, fun things, and I wanted everyone to enjoy their life while they were on this journey. And sometimes we're not successful in that, obviously, for everyone, but that was always our aim, for people to really feel a positive, have the time that they spend with us as a positive time, and hopefully learn as much as they could while they were with us. And I feel like the identity sometimes, especially perhaps at the end, because I wrote my book because I felt like there were so many people who were struggling living their dream life, and I wanted to share that in my book. So I wrote my book, and then we created lots of products around that. So sometimes it was difficult, and the podcast was the same, because I just felt like I got to speak to so many amazing people all the time, and I know I was really privileged to be around people like that. And but I did that because I felt so inspired. And then sometimes I was like, gosh, I wish I could share this with more people. And that's how the podcast came about. And I was really nervous about starting a podcast, because I'm used to this, like you interviewing me versus me interviewing other people. And that was a real challenge for me. It took me about 50 episodes to feel comfortable. And now it's one of my favorite things. And now my main guest is basically an author, because I have a book club now. And every time I read something, I'm like, oh, I want to dig deeper.
Okay.
So that's become really much part of the identity. But saying that, when I lost my business, I kind of lost a little bit of my identity, because even like kikki.K is my nickname. So it was a really hard one that I can't use that anymore. Like, they sent me legal letters that I couldn't use, and it's my nickname. So it's kind of a feeling, it's a difficult one, because I was like, and in the Swedish design, it's like, that's very much me, because that's who I am. So yeah, definitely a bit of identity challenges, but nothing that I couldn't overcome.
Beautiful. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on failure. Like, obviously, I'm a big believer of actually not even using the word, because I don't think that anything is really a failure. I think that we're always learning, and that there's always evolution. But I just love to hear your thoughts on, like, do you use the word failure? Is it something, how do you normally talk about it?
Well, I do, because I think that that's often what people want to talk about when they talk to me, which I'm really happy about, because I don't think enough people actually share their failures. So I'm really happy to share that. But I'm like you, like within both my businesses that I had, we never really talked about things being a mistake or a failure. It was always about learning, as long as we learn from it. And there was always lots and lots of learnings from small and small and also big mistakes, because if you look through them and really take the learnings, even if that learning is to never do that again, is a good one. And so Ariana Huffington, I did a collaboration with her many years ago, and she's an incredible businesswoman, based in the States. She's Greek, but based in the States. And she has a really good quote called that, I'm going to see if I can remember it. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's the stepping stone to success. And I really truly believe that. And I I don't want people to be scared of failure. You know, obviously don't want to do what I did. My failure was in terms of losing my business, but that was a risk that I did take. And I was happy to take that calculated risk at the time, because no one, as an entrepreneur, I knew that I could handle anything. I've handled so many different things over the years, but COVID was a different beast, and something that none of us could ever have imagined. Well, I certainly couldn't, and it really um, uh, made things so much harder. But we had lots of other challenges during that time at the same time. So no, I don't like using the word failure, but I often get asked about it, so I'm happy to talk about it. But I really truly believe it's learnings, it's growth, it's where you grow the most. It's the successes are often based on failures, and if they're pure successes, I'm not sure if you learn anything. It's really when you have to struggle and have the challenges and overcome them to create a foundation that's so much stronger. So and I think it was Ed Sheeran that I heard say the other day, is like, success is nothing, it's when you fail when you really learn. And I tend to agree. It's and it's something we shouldn't be scared of, especially if you are new to business. We should embrace them and learn from them. And in the beginning, when my first business was really small, I used to have a learning doc to make sure I systemized it all. And you know, every single time we made a mistake or failed, we made sure we learned from it and systemized it so it didn't happen again. And of course, that's really important, because you don't want to do the same mistakes over and over, because then I think that's a bit silly. So we need to learn and systemize it to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Love it. I've always thought too, like, believed in like failing forward. Like, you've got to make mistakes, otherwise you're not going to learn. Like, and you do. Like, that's why I like to think about it, because it's like you're failing. You're the one actually taking the action, or using like the Brene Brown term, like you're in the arena, like you're actually taking the
Oh,
steps. Yeah,
absolutely.
you're showing
Yeah.
up for your business
And
and
you
you're doing the
can't.
things you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't predict what's coming your way. And if you're not failing at all, then I don't think you're dreaming enough. But it's, of course, each person to decide what they want to do. So I'm not here to say that people should go out there and fail, but I do believe that if you are not failing, you're probably not dreaming enough. And you might be happy with that. But I do think that beyond that is so much growth and so much richer experiences, and you know, often not fun at the time, especially if it's financial, or if it's something that, you know, is really, you know, out of your comfort zone. It's not fun at the time, but and I certainly had that a lot. And it's not fun at the time, and but you learn, and you get
Grow.
through it, and you get stronger on the other side.
Absolutely. So I'm sure, like, with the experience of then obviously losing kikki.K, you've learned so much through that. But I know this is going to be a hard question to answer, but like, if we can whittle it down to one, what would be like one of the biggest lessons that you took away from that experience?
I think I'm there's lots. I don't think I can do one, but the one that
Do a
comes to
couple.
mind, the one that comes to mind is, I am so glad I worked on my mindset through the whole journey. So I didn't just have this incredible hard couple of years in front of me thinking I have no idea how I am going to get through this. I knew the whole time that I'll get through it. I wasn't quite sure you know, how many, what that meant, but I felt, and there were certainly days where I just didn't want to get out of bed, and you know, and it was such a public thing as well, so it was like really uncomfortable waking up in the morning thinking, oh, I have no idea what's going to be in the media today, I have no idea who's going to be outside my door. That was really hard to deal with. But I'm so glad I worked since I started my business on myself every single day. So that was definitely a learning. Another learning for me, but it's a hard one, because we had so many investors over the years, you know, that we bought back, and we had a very successful business, a global business that we're in 6 countries, which is not an easy thing to do, not just to do the actual business, but then having a brand that wherever I went, people absolutely loved it. That's not an easy thing to do. But if I had my time again, I wouldn't have signed my rights to. So we, in the end, when we were going really global, like we were already global, but we were going to like, to the UK, and we were going to go to the US. We got a big investor involved, and by doing that, I signed the rights away. And even though I had some rights, I didn't have the final say. And I was happy with that at the time, because I was at the stage then that when I just wanted to focus on what I was good at. I didn't really want to run the business. I didn't want to be the CEO. I wanted to just focus on what I was good at, which was creating products and the PR and things like that. So, but if I had my time again, I wouldn't have done that. But I did not know, because as an entrepreneur, I just felt like any challenge that will come my way, I've got through it every single time, and we had plenty over the years. COVID was a different thing, and it was a bit of a complex kind of time, because we were dealing with so many different things. We had Brexit in the UK that didn't help us. We had all the issues in Hong Kong that didn't help us. We had the bushfires in Australia, which certainly didn't help us. And also retail is tough. And, we had technology and paper, like that's also, even though we were kind of growing in so many categories, it was also a declining category, but because a lot of people disappeared, not using it. So we were growing, but it was still a challenge to kind of work all those things out. But I was not worried about any of those. When COVID happened, we were just about to sell. So our private equity decided to sell to a Chinese owner, and I was going to remain a shareholder. Both me and Paul was going to remain shareholders, and I was really happy with that, because that would have given us they basically just wanted to open thousands of stores in China, and we were going to continue with the rest of the world. Would have given us a really stable foundation, and they were really amazing manufacturer that I really want to manufacture it through. So it was kind of it was a good deal, and that deal was done 2 years before COVID, but it took 2 years to do all the paperwork. And as an entrepreneur, it was so frustrating, because I was like, let's get on with this. And then when COVID happened, they actually pulled out, and that's how we went into administration. So it was really unfortunate. If we would have done that deal earlier, we would have been absolutely fine. But you know what? Saying all that, it was horrible and it was awful. And I miss the kikki.K family, and I miss my nickname. But I love my new business even more, and so that's a good thing. So I had to take that, and but it certainly took a couple of years to get to that kind of to that frame of mind.
I love that you can really see the silver lining of it too. Like, I think that everything that you've just shared today on today's podcast is that awareness around looking back and finding the glimmers and finding the gold, and allowing yourself to be like, no, you know what? Yes, there were some really bloody hard times, but I took this away and I grew through this, and this made me resilient, and this allowed me to achieve this, and this allowed me to find this passion. There's so much. I just want to really acknowledge that within you, because it's a strength to have a mindset like that, where you can really pull the positives from each experience. And I'm not also diminishing, by the sounds of it, you also took the time to process your emotions through the experience of it. And I'm not diminishing that. And it's just that shift of mindset to be like, you know what, I can choose to look at it from this perspective of doom and gloom, or I can choose to look at it and go, you know what, you created an incredible global brand that still impacts people today. And you've also now moved on to this beautiful new business, and you're now continuing to impact even more people, which is also amazing. So can we talk more about that? Can you tell me a little bit more now? Where do you want to take this new business, and how can people work with you?
Yeah, thank you. So I decided to really focusing on speaking for the next 12 months, because there are not a lot of female entrepreneurs that failed as well as I have, and also happy to share it. And I feel like it took me a while to kind of work out, because it's not just me hurting. We had shareholders, we had team, and people lost money. So I was super aware of that for a long time, working out what my stand was going to be. But I feel like regardless of that, because when people invest, that's a risk we all take, me included, because I lost everything. So that's just things that we have to do. But I'm also super mindful of that. So it's not something that I just decided overnight. But I'm out there sharing the story, because I think I got so many lessons building a global business, but also losing a business, and the resilience that comes with that. And for any entrepreneurs or business owner, I think that's been really helpful for people hearing it. Also, one, that you can survive anything, I think, because I share I share like a video on the day where it was just awful. So I feel like by sharing that, people think, gosh, if that happens to me, I can survive, because it could happen to any business owner. You never know that, and hopefully it never does, but you never know. And that's, I think, as an entrepreneur, especially if you have investors involved, that's always an option for that, but hopefully never. And as an entrepreneur, you don't ever want to be in that. But sharing that has been really helpful, but also for resilience for teams, that, what I'm sharing and the things that I did to overcome the hard yards is not something that you don't need to be any specific person to do that. It was simple things like meditation, walking, speaking to a friend, journaling, simple stuff that makes common sense to me, but it's not commonly practiced. So that's why I want to really share the keynote. And then I still have such a love for journals and stationery, and it's been such a big part of who I am, and what really got me through the good times and the hard times, and that's journaling. And so we now have a business called the Dream Life Store, where people can personalize their journals, and we print on demand. So it's a new technology, which is amazing. Having sat with millions of dollars of inventory, it's such a beautiful way of doing things. And we used to discuss what pink we should have on our diaries for like 6 months, and now we can have like 1 million pinks if we wanted to. So it's really amazing. So we can have lots of different designs and lots of different, partnerships like BCNA. We've done like Mindful in May. We did Melissa Ambrosini, a mum journal. So we just done so many fun partnerships. And in the old days, I couldn't do that because we needed to do so many. The volume was so high. It's very different when you print on demand. So that's a Dream Life Store. So there's lots. I do t-shirts, I do print for walls and quotes and things like that I love. And then on the other side, I have coaching. So I feel like I was able to create my dream life by having a few tools. And so I have that now in the Dream Life Coaching Program. It's a monthly program that anyone can join at any time. And I just go live every week. And I just feel like that's so important if you don't have the support and the tools, but most importantly, someone who's there to lift you up when you need it. And we all need that from time to time. And then I also have my book club, which is we read a book a month. And then I have my podcast, and I just love what I get to do. And now I'm much, I have a small team. I took a few people with me from my previous business that I love working with, and we're just having a really fun time working hard. Starting again is not easy, and when you start again with the kids, kids in schools and specific lifestyle. But it's been incredibly such an experience for them as well. And I wasn't quite sure how they will take it, because I knew the whole time I'll survive. But for them, it was also a bit of a shock. And they grew up with this, but they're both entrepreneurs, and I always involve them in the business, and have been able to somehow build a business and raise functional kids that now have their own businesses. And that's an amazing feeling, because that's I remember Joe from Mecca, who started Mecca. We used to go for walks all the time during COVID, and she always said, gosh, just remember in these hard times that you have 2 amazing functional kids, because that's not always the case for when you build a massive business, that you sometimes family is on the side. But I felt like I incorporated that in a really nice way that everyone kind of enjoyed, and obviously we had a good time, and also some challenges, but I think that's how they are also very resilient and understanding.
That's it. You would have taught them so much through how you handled every piece, and how you talked about it, and how you now reframe it. Like every part of that they would take on board for sure. Like imagine the businesses they're going to create.
I know, it's amazing, and it's so fun to see what they're doing and their attitude, and it's just so inspiring, and I absolutely like. It's so fun. I've always spoken business with them, but I feel like where they're at now, like I'm learning so much from them, which is really, really fun.
It's awesome. And I'm so glad to hear you're going to be sharing more of your story and being on stages and sharing that keynote, because I was literally talking to a friend the other day and I was like, there's not enough female voices being heard in entrepreneurial space. Like every time we go to events, it's like literally the men's club, like just such a men's
Yeah.
club. I just
Yeah.
I would love to see you share more of your story and to, I mean, we could talk for the next few hours all about the experience, but we don't have all the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
today.
And you
So
know what? I set myself, I decided to do everything that I do, I dream really big. And it's not necessarily to achieve it in terms of I don't, I'm kind to myself if I don't achieve it. So I decided for this new financial year coming up that I'm going to do 2 a week, which is 104. It won't fall like that. And even if I am, as a new speaker, I always been speaking, but more of a speaker, default speaker, like if someone asked me, I would say yes or no, versus now I'm actually actively seeking to be out there, and that's a different way. And it's funny because everyone's like, why would you, 2 a week is a lot, because there's often sometimes not in the same city or state, and I was like, I love dreaming big, and I want to share that here because that just makes you think in a different way. So if I just said, hey, I'm going to do, I don't know, 30 to 50, I know that I can easily do that. And well, maybe not easily, but I know that that's absolutely achievable. 104, not sure. That's a lot. I don't know a lot of people doing that many. And that's a real challenge. And I wanted to share that because when you dream big, regardless of what it is, just makes you think in a different way. And sometimes my friends is like, why can't you just do something that is kind of realistic or possible? I said, because then it just becomes really boring. Now I have to really go outside of my comfort zone, which is a challenge. And also I need to be really good, because I can do maybe the first 20. If I'm not good enough, no one's going to rebook me. So it's really good to dream big, thinking if I want to be a world-class speaker and I want to do 104 a year, that requires me to become really good, requires me to really think outside the square, maybe thinking globally, thinking who is really good, who can I learn from, all the things that we all need to do depending on the dream. And I love that because it just keeps me excited and keeps me thinking what's next. Yeah, I just want to share that because there might be something there for everyone listening to, if they're starting a business or doing something, to really make it big so you actually think outside the square.
I absolutely love that. And I talk about this with my clients so much because you're right. Like if we just have those like realistic goals, we do realistic actions, right? We do
Yeah.
realistic behaviors. Whereas if you do take it to that next level, which is why I call my podcast the next level, right?
Yeah.
Because it helps to expand the way that you even think about what actions you could take. Because if you double it or you 10 times your goal, it not necessarily has to be your outcome or goal that you work towards, but at least it makes you think about things differently and you'll do
Yeah.
different bigger steps and much more effective steps
Yeah.
towards achieving that. Like
Yeah.
when I think about you doing 104, you're more likely going to be reaching out to your networks. You're going to
Yeah.
be putting yourself out there. You're going to be asking for it more. Whereas if you're like, oh, I'll just do 30, it's like, oh, half of those will come my way. I'll just kind of figure out the others, right? Whereas it just changes your actions very differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also, so I set for this year also 10xing my business. Again, it's not necessary for me to do that, but I really want to do it because I just want to be out there again, and I just want to contribute to the world. And then the other one is 10xing my health. And so I'm studying longevity because I want to live to I'm 120. And that one is, I'm on it. I'll probably want 10xing it this year, but that's my mentality. So I'm learning about longevity and health and well-being, and something I'm really passionate about. Not something I am going to certify as a coach, as a longevity coach, but I'm actually not going to work in it. It's more to kind of be there, because when you dream big, you want to have your health and well-being sorted, and ideally you want to live healthy for a long time so you can do more things. And I see so many people coming in and they struggle with their energy and health, and I feel like if I have that foundation, then I can support people. It's not what I'm going to coach in, but it helps
Yeah.
to support people in that as well. And also, I'm going to implement it all in my on my own. I'll see how I go.
I love that. I love that. That's so awesome. And I feel like we're so aligned with that in the way that I think about my business too. Like it's like, well, let's just see if that's possible. Like
Yeah.
it's let's 10x it just to see what could I be
Absolutely. And
capable of.
a really good question for everyone who's listening is asking, why not me?
Mm.
Because I feel like every time I meet someone, I never think why them. Like I always think why not them? Like everyone who will create an amazing business or get super healthy or super fit or raise incredible families, it's not because they're as much more talented or much smarter. It's because they do it. And so it's all possible. That's why I'm so passionate about helping people live their dream life, because it's so possible for everyone. Yes, you have to work. That's just how it is, but you have to work anyway. Most of us have to work. You might as well do something you're passionate about. And it will not be easy, but it's also not easy not to do that. I feel like when you start thinking about what's possible for you and you don't take action towards it, that's also a really hard bucket to sit in. So I always want to go in the bucket where it's hard, but maybe I'll get there. And even if you reach halfway, you'll get much further than not doing anything. So yeah, I just
thrive in the challenges. I love
yeah.
it. Thank you so much for sharing all your incredible wisdom today. It's been such a joy chatting with you. To finish off, I would love to just ask you one more little question. If someone was listening to this and they want to take their business to the next level, what's some advice that you'd have for them?
Do a dreaming exercise around your business. So ask yourself, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? So put that failure rate completely out of your head. If you couldn't fail, what would you do with business? What size would it be? What kind of people would you help? What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What kind of new products or services would you add to it? And what would you do if you had all the skills and the resources and the knowledge, all the things that we never have in a small business? But what if you had it? What would you like your business to look like? And how do you want to feel? And how do you want to what do you want to do within your business? If you had all the money and the resources and the knowledge and the skills and the team and everything you need to create whatever you want, because often we are restricted by skills and knowledge and team and time and money for sure. And if we took that away and just really dream what is possible. And then the third one would be if you had all the health and the energy, because I also know that that's not the case for small business owners always. Sometimes we have a health challenge or we're just really tired, so it's really hard to think big. But if you had all the energy and the health to do whatever you want with your business, what would you do? And if you take an hour asking those questions, and ideally write them down versus typing them, but obviously up to each person. But I feel like there's something rewiring your brain in a different way when you actually put pen to paper and then start thinking about what is possible for you. Without doubt, you will come up with some ideas that is absolutely easy to do, because when I do this I run workshops like this for businesses now. So many people don't even think about it because they just feel exhausted, or they feel I'm not capable, or I don't have the team or the skills or the budget. You don't even think outside the square. And sometimes the things that comes up in those workshops are absolutely doable. And sometimes people are shocked that they're not even doing them. Yeah. And I certainly had those moments in my own businesses as well. And it's incredible what you will level up 100% if you do this exercise every year, or ideally every quarter. There's no doubt that you will level up.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story today and for being here. I really appreciate it, Kristina. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been such a joy.